Hello, everybody. That took a little while to get up and going. Computer's not playing nice. Hope you're having a good Thursday today. The weekend is coming up. If you got any gigs, let me know. I'll tell everybody to go out and check out your band or your solo act. But, wait, what? Oh, never mind. Weird pop-up messages. There's been a lot of weird things with YouTube. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it's slowing down a lot. Like loading things has been taking a lot longer than usual, which is strange for me because I have YouTube Premium. So it's not them slowing me down because I have ads. I know a lot of people have been complaining about that. How dare you use an ad blocker, YouTube? But or not allow ad blockers. But for me, it's just not working well at all. So hopefully this goes well. Hello to the professionals. Matt, yeah, I haven't seen you in one of these live ones in a while. It's good to see you. Mustud, I like that name. Deb and Robert and Rafa. All right, cool. Did you guys see this Gibson stuff? There's a few things with Gibson. The first was they released new amplifiers. They released two small combo amps. I believe they're called Falcons. And one's a 7 watt, I believe. The other one's a 15. You know what? Why don't we just go and look? That makes a lot more sense than just going here. But also, we'll start with what I have loaded up. They also just released a set of humbuckers that are $1,000 for humbuckers. So you have the 1959 collector's edition, and I would expect no less here. The most accurate recreation of the PAF. Alnico 4s. I seriously bet they sound amazing. But $1,000. I don't know, man. That's a lot of money for pickups. It does come with a cute little case, although I have issues with the lifting case. It's beautiful. The recent ones aren't really built that well. Like the one on my 335 is already starting to not be as reliable as the humbucker guitars, like the 77 hard shell cases I have that are made in Japan. Those are much nicer, and they've held up longer. The one is over 12 years old, but I digress. They get the look of the Gibson custom case on it, but they're $1,000. So what I'm curious about is, what guitar is this going in? Because if you buy a historic, you're already getting the custom buckers. Those are like, if you want an R8, they're like $5,000, $5,600, something like that. If you want an R9, those are like $6,700. You're going to spend another $1,000 on humbuckers? I don't know, man. Let me know what you think about that. But before I check the chat, I do want to show you the amps so I don't get this totally botched. Yeah, the Falcons. The Falcon 5 and the Falcon 20. $1,500 and $1,800. We'll go to the big money one first. $1,800. I'm guessing you don't get an effects loop with this. Nope. But I'm fine with that. Some of you would say that's a deal breaker. For me, I'm used to not having an effects loop, and I like running delays in front of the amp, the old school way. This does come with a built-in tube-driven spring reverb, I believe, and a 2-channel foot switch. So 6v6s, I don't know. I feel like this is a lot of money for what it is. But then again, a Tone King is more expensive. Like the Falcon Grande, funny enough, it is more expensive than this one. Also 1 channel and similar wattage to it. But I don't know. I haven't seen much about this. I haven't looked on YouTube. Let me know what you guys have heard or seen, or if any of this interests you. It is worth noting that since Gibson have acquired Mesa Boogie, that they probably have some serious, decent designers working on these things. So I'm going to guess they're of pretty good quality. Again, sight unseen, just going off of a hunch, we'll say. But those are the two Gibson things I wanted to talk about today. So what do you guys think about that? Let me see what's going on. All right. My kid says they have the best P90s. I don't know about humbuckers, but 1K, that is stupid. I mean, I just don't see what guitar they're going to. Because again, if you're spending that kind of money, well, maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. Maybe I'm just not rich enough to understand this. If you buy a Murphy Lab or just a regular historic, God forbid it's not one of the aged ones, right? Like I said, you're over $5,000. Buy it new. $1,000 for the pickups. You're telling me the pickups in that aren't already good enough? I'll be interested to see if they throw these pickups into guitars from the factory. I think that would have been the smarter thing to do. If they've done this already and you're a huge Gibson fanboy and you're yelling at the computer screen, I apologize. But to my knowledge, they've not released these specific pickups in a guitar yet that they've sold. I would have built a lot of hype with those pickups in it, and then you offer the pickups to try and recreate that magic sound or whatever. It helps with marketing. Plus, it gives somebody a point of reference. $1,000 for something you've never heard before. That's a tall order. Yeah. How many times can Gibson spell the most true and accurate PAFs? How many times can Fender sell the most vintage accurate Telecaster? They're going to do it forever. As long as people buy these things, common knowledge and common sense don't really apply. Love the case, but what's the point? You know what the point is? They're collector's pieces. What's sad will be is I should buy a set of those and not install them, wait 6 months, and then sell them for double. If I had any faith in the market right now, I probably would do that. But yeah, nothing is selling. But that's its own can of worms, I suppose. Nice case, yeah. They are. Good afternoon, James. $1,000. You have a bridge to sell me also? Well, to be fair, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. At least, yeah, I'm not going to do it. We'll let it go. We'll be peaceful unless somebody else brings it up. And I haven't mentioned anything that would imply I have something that really grinded my gears the other day that was recently talked about by a major manufacturer. If one of you bring it up, we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to do it on my own. You think it's insane? You ain't in London. Going in the kick guitar? Well, it'll be easy for you to install in the kick guitar now that you've mangled it. It looks cool. Nice. Those are expensive, but I guess that's in line with the rest of Gibson's stuff. You know what the funny thing is, right? Let's look at Fender's pricing. Okay, so we got $1,500 for a 5-watt 1x10. All right, so Fender.com. Make sure this is loading. All right, it appears to be. Amps and audio. I want tube amps and pro tube amps. The hell's the difference? Anyway, okay, so a Princeton is 14 and a Deluxe is 16 now. Jesus, these got expensive too. Now, I love old Princeton reverbs. I really do. You're getting a similar kind of vibe with these. No modern nonsense. Just a reverb, a tremolo, single channel, glorious clean sounds up until about 4.5. And then it starts to get hairy. That's $1,400. The Deluxe now is 16. These were $1,000 forever. Oy vey. Oy vey. So here's the thing I'll say about this, okay? Fender's recent amp offerings, I've seen a few people and talked to a few techs that have looked at them. If you modify certain things in them, they will last longer, but they're not as designed as ruggedly or as well thought out to not have problems as they previously were. Knowing that Gibson, basically that's a Mesa Boogie amp. I trust them more than I trust Fender. I trust Mesa to build an amp that will last and take a beating more than I trust modern Fender. Does that mean it's going to sound as good? I am the beholder. And does that mean it's going to be worth the extra money? I don't know. Maybe I'd be shopping at other brands. But I don't think the pricing is as outrageous as it looks, considering how nuts everything is these days. The sound is in your hands and in your heart. Remember that. See, that's damn good advice, Robert, and that's the truth. You guys are going to see such a cheap Strat. You might even see 2 really cheap Strats. I got an email last night about a company that wants to do a collaboration. And honestly, I had to read the email 3 times and I'm still not sure. I don't know if they are offering to send me a guitar or an electronic drum kit or both. I'm very confused by the wording of it. I think there's some translation issues. So I sent them an email back, and when it's their local time, we'll see what they have to say about that. I think it looks cool too, Staley. Okay. Good morning, Rex. What do you got? You played the SE 594? Yeah, they're like the 594s. You know what? I'm not even going to include this, just the SEs. This is all PRSs. If you've played one of a model, you've played all of that model. Like if you play one S2 McCarty, you know what all of them are going to be like. They're very consistent. So if you like that, then you're going to be happy. If you don't, then don't think there's going to be a magic one out there. It's weird. It's not the same as Gibson and other brands, for better or for worse. Some people would say that's a huge plus because I'm not gambling when I buy a guitar. It's a very valid point. But I would rather buy something in person and really be like, oh, this is something really special, and go from there. Whether it's any brand. Doesn't really matter who it is. We have a Deviser update today, but it's not what you're looking for. We'll go over those guitars in a little bit. Mesa Boogie built. You can get a vintage Gibson amp for less. Oh, you can get a vintage Fender Champ for less than a new Champ, and the thing won't blow up and catch on fire. And I'm not going to say really accrue value because it kind of defeats what I just said. But still, they're not making them anymore. Those old 70s Champs, the silver faces, you get them for like $600, $500. You buy them locally, at least here. Those pickups are an Epiphone Greenie, making the price of the Epiphone Greenie. I talked about the Epiphone Greenie. What's today? Thursday? It has been rough with my kid going back to school. I am exhausted all the time. With John Robson on Tuesday, and I'm going to message him if he'd be okay with me posting the portion of the chat that we had, because he wanted to talk about gear. And I was like, okay, we could do that. And the reason John and I have been speaking is because Rex introduced me to him. John, if you do follow him, you would know his hand is out of order. So me, of all people, got asked to perform a solo for him in a lesson. So fun stuff. And that's going to be, the solo itself won't be part of this because I'm going to let him use the footage. It's for his video. It's not for me. But talking about that and the guitar that I used will be tomorrow's video, and some observations I have, and vintage versus modern, and just a few things that struck a chord with me, so to speak. So it was fun stuff. Lawler make good pickups. I'll stick with that. Yeah, Lawler make great pickups. Fralin make great pickups. There's a lot of places that make a great pickup, and the sets aren't going to cost you $1,000. You could, all right, let me just do this for fun. I could put the Lawlertrons into the Thin Line Deluxe. No matter where I move, you're not going to see it. Yeah, there it is. I could put Lawlertrons into that. That's $400. I could buy a set of Jaguar pickups just to try them. Maybe throw them in the Momose. That's $220. Call it $200. $600. I could buy a set of Strat pickups. I don't know, what are they, $300? So that's 3 sets of pickups, tax and shipping included. I'm still getting those for less than 1 set of the collectible Gibsons. And again, that's not to say the Gibsons aren't going to sound great or that they won't accrue value. But practically speaking, I think you hit diminishing returns at the price of Lawler. I think Lawler is the most I would ever spend on pickups. There's other companies that offer more expensive ones. And people love them. But I don't know. I'm happy, like that's where I'm happy. It's just like in guitars, everyone has like their like price ceiling, their price cap. They're like, after that, it's like it's getting a little excessive. I don't really think there's going to be that big of a difference. But to each their own. Let me know if you agree with me and Staley on that one. Are they at least silver? I saw those right before. Oh man, I saw those right before I loaded up the stream today. I went on to the Instagrams, and they had already sold out. And I was like, oh, it was sold out in 20 minutes. So people still are buying pickups, buying pedals. I'll tell you what they're not buying. Guitars. Some of the prices I have seen have been nutso, and I can't move a thing. And I was talking to somebody, 11AD, I believe, on here. And they got so frustrated trying to sell a Gibson. If you can't sell a Gibson and your price is decent, there's trouble afoot. He just took the thing down. He's like, I'm not dealing with it. Not dealing with it. I'd rather keep it than lose it for less. Fair play. We all have our lands in the sand, so to speak. Spending that much is dumb. Anyway, you have to either be a collector, foolish to get those pickups. You think so? I think they're for flippers, too. You know who's going to have a set of those, right? Do I need to say who's going to have a set of those and who's going to review them? And oh, God, that's really funny now that I think about it because I'm picturing the review in my head or trying to hear it. Probably not the best person to demo $1,000 pickups, but I bet you Trogley gets one of those. Dolphin, but you know what? Markleford's not here, so I don't have to see the emote. Oh, anytime, Matt. Anytime. I think it's the most expensive pickups I'll have experience with are the PAF style ones by Amber that are going to the Maybach. $450 a set. That's about in line with what the Imperials would cost. And I believe the Lawlertrons, there's 2 different versions of them. Because I've been seriously thinking about this. I don't know if I want to do Lawlers or Fralins for that guitar. I love them both. I love both those companies. And I'm thinking about it. But I think the Lawlertrons start at $400 a set, but if you get the vintage mod, which makes them a little bit more accurate, different magnets, they're $20 more a piece per pickup. So I'll make those sets $440. And that's, again, we're on the exact same page. That's the most I would spend. The problem with that pricing is that it creates a market that I really don't want to exist. Oh, it's too late. We are well past the point of return with good markets. As far as new pricing goes, it's gone. It ain't coming back. It's over. It's done. Ugh. But that's a whole nother can of worms. Hello, Steve. I saw Steve the other day. You know what? I'm going to tie this in. We're going to have a participation trophy. A poll. I don't often, I told you guys that one of the things I do is when I watch YouTube, I'll watch the pedal show if I'm doing something else that I can stop easily, whether it's setting up a guitar or just stuff around the house, right? I was listening to the pedal show the other day, and they said, "Hey, we have Steve Cassidy guitar here." That's my terrible British voice. I could do scows better than that, but I'll spare you. But I was like, and I laughed. I was like, Steve's famous. But the week before that, I was listening again, okay? And Dan was talking about his solo album that he didn't get done in 2023. And he highlighted the fact that he had so much stress and a lot of anxiety. And they were talking further upon this, and Mick agreed with him, that the very first thing you lose when you have a lot of stress and anxiety in your life is your creativity. And I thought I was an anomaly to that, because when I was younger, when things were either really good or really bad, I felt like I was my most creative because I had like something substantial of a topic to really give me something to channel my emotions through via the instrument. But as I'm older now, I can't do it because I can't put whatever it is out of my head. So we're going to ask you a question today. What's a fourth option? Okay, you got 4 options here, guys. When you are stressed, do you lose your creativity on the guitar? I mean like really stressed, not like a temporary, oh, you know what, I'm having one bad day today, and tomorrow everything is fine. I'm talking about like if you have substantial stress going on, things that aren't just quick fixes. Yeah. Because we all have those different points in our lives. Does it affect your creativity? That's what I'm curious to know. And we will see. All right, yeah, keep the votes coming in. Your options are yes, no, I am not creative, or it comes back quickly. And I love that somebody voted I am not creative. That's the only reason I put that, because I thought somebody would put that, and I'm guessing it's Steve. Honestly, it's been a problem with me and YouTube too. At the end of the year last year, I have a huge list of video topics. I'm looking right at it. I just brought it up. I'm so tired and so stressed. I still don't know where we're moving, which means I don't know what exactly the situation is going to be with my kids' school. What if any kind of car I'm going to get. Getting money together for all this. What am I going to bring with me? Because all of this is contingent on so many things. It's just a stressful time, man. So for me, like I feel like I've lost it. Like I have the desire to do a lot of things, but between not getting any sleep and the stress that it ain't going away, I'm having a rough go of it. And hearing those guys talk about it made me feel a little bit better. So I was like, man. At least it's not just a me thing. We can always count on Trogley to bring us quality reviews of the newest Gibson stuff. You can always count on Trogley to bring you the newest Gibson stuff. 100%. Dan's playing has progressed so much. He's a top-notch player. I like the way he plays. I always laugh when he randomly starts sweep picking, because when the camera is a full pan out and it shows both of them, whenever he starts doing little sweep runs, Mick has this look on his face like, why are you doing this? Because it's really not Mick's character either. But I always get a kick out of that. But I think both of them have gotten a lot better. They're both great guitar players. And they both seem like just cool people. You know, guys that you would want to hang out with. Enablers. Big time enablers. You might go broke if they were your friends. But you'd have fun. When you are a family person and you have stress, it definitely harms it. Yeah, that's yeah. I can't get stuff out of my head. I'm always thinking about too much right now. It's difficult. Times are great. You voted yes. Times of great stress trauma have inspired my best albums. But did you revisit it after or during the time itself? Either way, I'm just curious about that. And did you have kids at the time? Oh, man. Because it's like I have to put on my game face when she's around. I can't let her know I'm falling apart on the inside. It's tough, man. It's tough. Yeah, I do remember that, Deb. And I remember you telling me about that. And I remember I actually saw an update. It was, oh man, what was it, like 6-7 months ago? Deb was talking about this, and I said, when I would go 2 miles down the road, I'm not going to say the name of the road, but there's a house on it that said, I'm not going to let this kill me. Out in the front yard is a woman that had cancer, and she recently had one up that said, I effing beat it. And then just like, the house is decorated like it's the 4th of July. They're never taking that down. So I was really happy for her. And that made me think of Deb again. I should take a picture of it. You quit playing for 35 years because of family stress. Oof. Oof. That's why you need that's why you got a dog. You can't restring on a bad day. Inspiration returns you back to creativity. That makes sense. You have, yeah, the kids thing, man. The kid thing is brutal. It's brutal. Just the stress part. Having a kid is amazing. I could not imagine my life without my kid. But in times like this, where there's a lot of uncertainty, and then stuff you can't control, I try not to worry too much about that. That can eat you up really quick with the world, because this is a crazy world. But like stuff that you have to figure out, because it's like, you're the adult. Figure it out, dude. Hope you make the right decision. Yeah. It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. It's not that you lose your creativity when you're stressed. It changes it. It's still there. You just have to find it. I tend to use music and creative. I used to do that, Staley. When I was single, or, just not married. If I was dating, it was the same thing. Like, I could easily just power through it because I only had to worry about myself. And, yeah, it's so much different when a child is involved. Maybe that's what it is for me. I'm having a therapy session, and you guys are all my psychiatrists. We're all working this out together. But that's the only thing that changed. I remember this. When I was younger, Dad, if you're listening to this, I apologize. He's not going to like this story. I used to partake in a lot of activities to get myself in a state of mind to be creative or just for fun. And one night, I ate a bunch of stuff that grows on a certain substance. It's natural from the ground. And I had too much. I had done them before, but I did them again. And it was rough. And I'll never forget, this is how I know like my adrenaline was like kicked in. At the end of it, I had made it back to my house. And it was still just like out of control. Like, I'm getting like the hairs on my arms are standing up thinking about it. But I was fighting it so hard. The only thing that calmed me down and got me through it was playing guitar and just write. I don't even know what I was writing, but I was just writing. I was like, this is gonna work. This will do it. But yeah, in the past, that's worked for me a lot. Music and writing in general. Anyways, question. Help. All right. I'm going to help you with one thing before I help you with anything else, Patrick. Well, rather, I'm going to correct you so you don't get this wrong again. Not that this is a quiz, but it's not a tremolo. It's a vibrato. That's the face my wife makes when she's angry. What is the best upgrade vibrato for a jazz master? String sizes? That's going to vary, man. String sizes? We were talking about this the other day. Yeah, you got the symbol right. We were talking about this the other day in the Discord and how there's so much I feel, well, you know what? I don't even feel it. It's just wrong information that gets spouted off as fact with offset guitars by some people. You have to use 11s. You have to shim your neck. You have to replace the vintage bridge. Blah, blah, blah. It's all crap. As a blanket statement, it's crap because it's just universally false to declare that. When it comes to what you're asking, before I get into the reasoning behind that, the best one that you can buy on the aftermarket is the Mastery. Best one. But I wouldn't buy that one. I would just buy an American vintage reissue one from Fender. It will cost you a third of as much money, and it's great. It has the lock on it. It's great. You'll be just fine. Just don't buy the American Professional one with the screw-in arm. Not a fan. Yeah, I was really happy for her. 4 boys and a bipolar wife will do it. Jesus, James. Yeah, that will do it. I get you. When all else fails, write a song. We were just rehearsing a new song called All My Little Failures last night. Damn, if I had to write a song about all my little failures, do you know how long that song would be? Now, I don't trust you guys. Well, actually, I do trust you guys. There's a song. It's going to be so easy for somebody to Google and cheat. This is why I don't like doing this. But I'll do it anyway. If you cheat, I will find you. And I'll ban you. I promise. There's a song called Art of Life that is about 28 minutes, I believe. If you know what band wrote Art of Life, type it in the YouTube comment section. You'll have to know it right away. This is not something that you're going to be like, oh, I can't remember it, and then you're going to remember it 5 minutes later. That's how I know you'll cheat it. But my song about all my little failures would be longer than Art of Life. Okay. Let me see. The rabbit hole is the offset upgrades. What will be the conditions you would see that would necessitate adding a shim underneath the neck? The angle of the neck pocket. Some, especially newer offsets, they're angled right. You don't need to put a shim in them at all, ever. Older ones, not all of them had it, or really none of them don't. But what you would find is from the factory a makeshift shim in a lot of Fender offset guitars from the factory. I think that's kind of where the train of thought comes from. And I suppose if this is still a stretch because I can't imagine this scenario, but if all you ever dealt with were Jazz Masters from the 60s, Jaguars and Jazz Masters from the 60s, maybe you could have a point, but even then, no. But you know, once you put the neck in the guitar and you see the angle it's coming out at, you put the strings on and you'll see the break angle off of the bridge, and then you'll see the action, and you'll have a really good idea at that point. But on most modern ones, like the American Vintage 2s, there's no reason to shim those guitars, period. There's none. You're fine. Oh, you know what? I'm actually more disappointed in you, Rummy, for remembering that much, but not remembering who it was. There's no way anybody would get that. If you did, you would have gotten it quick, and you would have been like, oh my God. Oh my God. I would have been very impressed. The band was X Japan. They are a huge inspiration to me. I found them late. And by late, I mean late in their run, because they were really big in the 80s. And another person, this is a fun fact. Marty Friedman found X Japan when he was still with Megadeth. And X Japan is a band that it had a lot of metal to it, and they had some harder songs for sure. But there was a classical element, and there was more like kind of ballad songs included within that as well. And Yoshiki, the drummer, was also the main composer. He's a genius. He's a genius. Marty wanted to play more of that kind of style once he found it. And he was teaching himself Japanese at the time. And Dave Mustaine did not want to do that. So there you go. There you go. Yeah. Little fun facts. You saw X Japan at Lollapalooza? Not with Hide. That poor guy. I still don't. Oh, man. Conspiracy theories. He died. We'll just say that. He died. He passed away. And they've been playing with other guitarists, such as, who was it? Sugizo was playing with them for a while. Pata was the other guitar player. He played single cuts. And he's still around. And then Toshi was the singer. And you could tell in his old age the voice is starting to give out, because he used to have a big, huge, powerful voice. Huge range. And as you get older, I mean, stuff happens. You wear your voice out, especially playing like arenas all the time for decades. Anyways, back to the offset thing real quick. I'll tie that up, and then we'll see what's going on here. With the offsets string gauge, I'm just going to say this. We talked about this in the Discord, but it's just a reminder to everybody else. Fender Japan shipped Jaguars and Jazzmasters with a vintage radius and a vintage bridge with 9 through 42 gauge strings from the factory. I have played many of those brand new. Works just fine. A little bit of tweaking. Your action's not this high off the fingerboard. It's fine. And I'm somebody who strums pretty hard. As a matter of fact, there was a video I made, gotta have been like a year and a half ago, where I showed you on a vintage bridge. I was playing the hell out of it, and it had the hybrid slinkies, which is 9 through 40 slicks, heavy top, slinky bottoms, or the other way around. But I was going hard, because that's how I play funk. When I'm really into it, I lay into the strings. I'm very aggressive. Not a single pop issue. Not a single pop issue. As far as the string leaving out of the saddle of the threads on those. You set those things up right. You loosen the strings, or not loosen them, but you stretch them out. You lubricate things. You make sure you have a good break angle. It's not rocket science, but it takes some learning. You don't need to go out and replace your bridge. You don't need to go out and buy a shim. You don't need to switch to flat wound 12s. All that stuff is nonsense. If you want to do that, by all means. But is it necessary? Absolutely not. Ever see Marty on the... Of course. Well, which one? Which Japanese guitar show? You know, he made the rounds for ages. He still does. But he did shows on Japanese TV. Paul Gilbert did shows. Some of them, sometimes they did shows together. Both of them have played with Char, Char's sessions where they just jam out. It's awesome. Yeah, he's big in Japan. He did the Japan national song for last year. Marty did. Considering how Japan's culture is, the fact that they let Marty do that, I know he plays with the Tokyo Orchestra and Symphony. Man, he's a legend. You run 9 through 42 on offsets with no issues. The setup has to be right. You have to get the setup right, but it can be done. It can absolutely be done. I've done it before. I don't use 9 through 42. I use bigger gauge wire than that. For most people on a Jaguar, especially, I would not recommend 9s, only because it's going to feel like spaghetti. If you want that, like almost no tension in the strings, then that'll work for you. But for Jaguars, I like 10s or 11s. For Jazz Masters, yeah, you can do 9s or 10s. Either one's fine. For me, either work. Trying to remember why I have 11 to 14s lying around. 14s? What are you playing? The big boys. Let's see how this poll is doing here. When you are stressed, do you lose your creativity on guitar? 48% say yes. 32% say no. 16% of you say I am not creative. That was a joke answer. I hope that you're not serious. We're all creative in our own ways. Seriously. Give yourself some credit. And 4% say it comes back quickly. You put 8s on a Mustang? It is for my 10-year-old daughter's birthday. I have 8s on the blue Squier Affinity Stratocaster for that very reason. But it's still too big for my kid, that guitar. You got to run, Staley? Thank you. You've been around lately. You'll be around more lately. I hope you have a great day too, man. Thanks for always stopping in and just being a friend. Take care, man. Speaking of Japan, I like where this is going. I did a project recently for grad school where I got to write about how Gibson not having their own version of Fender Japan is a detriment to their brand. Disagree, and they did at one point. They just weren't called Gibson. They were called Orville by Gibson. They were licensed by Gibson to be made in Japan, in both the Terada factory, who make the Gretches now, and by Fujigen in the 80s and the 90s. Some of them even had nitro finishes. Some of them even came with Gibson USA full-on hardware and electronics. Yep. True story, my friend. True story. And I've owned a few of them. But onto your retort, if you're going to say, well, they don't have Gibson on the headstock, you would be right. Well, the Orville by Gibsons, which was the higher end models of them, the regular Orvilles were the base tier. Orville by Gibson, those are the higher end ones. They didn't just say Gibson. I think that was genius because it doesn't dilute their brand. If you pick up an electric guitar and it says Gibson on the headstock, unless it is a piece of shit Chinese knockoff, pardon my French, but I hate those things and they should all be thrown into a dumpster and lit on fire around the world. That's a cause we should all, as human beings, just gather around. Throwing Gibsons into fires. Anyways, I digress. You know it's made in America if it's a Gibson. They're not like Fender. They're not like Paul Reed Smith. With Fender, if it says Fender on the headstock, that could be made in Japan, Korea, the United States, Mexico, China, Indonesia. I'm trying to think if they ever made it. I believe that's it. But that's still a lot that have the Fender name on the headstock. Versus Gibson, it's just the USA. Unless it's a fake, in which case it should be lit on fire and destroyed. I'm not into that. I think it would kill their business. Could you imagine if they let Tokai build their guitars for them and put the Gibson logo on them? Nobody would buy an American one. Nobody would. Unless it was really high-end ones. You'd be paying less. And you know who it would really kill? Do you know who it would really kill? It would kill Epiphone. Nobody would buy Epiphones. if they had a Japanese version of Gibson. Nobody would buy Epiphones. Look at Epiphone pricing. Look at Epiphone pricing. $1,500 for some models. Over $1,000 is somewhat regular these days. Who knows what you're getting with those? And Laurel boards and made in China versus made in Japan. Now, I'm sure that there are many fine Chinese instruments in this world. But if I'm going to pay the same amount brand new, you are nuts if you think I'm not going to pick the Japanese-made one over the Chinese-made one. Just period. And that goes for any product I have the opportunity to choose between those two countries with. Don't mean to... Man. Yeah, it's weird, but that's how I feel about it. Got to be honest. You remember them? You used to own one as well. It was more a hypothetical. Could they have kept it around like Fender Japan are doing? A lot of things. Well, that whole time period is so weird. All those agreements were so weird. Yamaha Music getting in with Fender and Bill Schultz, and oh man, that was such a lightning in a bottle thing. Because obviously I'm happy it happened. And Fender needed that to happen. Because if Fender didn't have that happen, that company was dead. The JVs were so good, and the production of the Japanese ones were so good, they had to introduce the Squier line of guitars. That's the only reason they did it. They had the name for ages. But in order to differentiate to show it, and then they had to knock down some of the specs and the costs for a time until the order maids became a thing. But Fender Japan was instrumental in the resurgence of the Fender brand in the 1980s. They were essential. And then after the JV line ended, when the Corona factory reopened up in 1986, that's when we started getting the really good American vintage reissues. And now some people will say, well, you're forgetting the American vintage reissues that were before that, made in 83 and 84, Dan Smith era. Yes, those are out there too. But knowing that a lot of the people that ended up being in the custom shop, people like John Cruz, whether you love the guy or you hate the guy for whatever reasons outside of the fact that he knew how to build a freaking guitar, they were working on those guitars. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. One of my friends, after I wrote the report, asked me if they could do that now, given their strategy with Epiphone. Yeah, no chance. No chance. That ship has sailed. Just like they'll never do Korea either, ever again. Clear, what flat tops you got lying around? Your Epi 335, a sleeper. I got the Sheridan, and I got the 335, but that 335's a figured top. Technically, a flat top would be the super deluxe thin-line Telecaster. I love the Sheridan. I was actually tweaking with that a little bit today. I was debating filming the Gibson versus Epiphone video and just talking about the two guitars and all that fun stuff. I really think that's a good guitar. So I was tweaking with it a little this morning. And then I decided to make a different kind of topic and go in a different direction instead. Because that's what I do when I have no sleep and no attention span. I could just focus on one guitar, not even make it a demo. Just have some playing examples. Make it about something else. That's how we're rolling today. Okay. Before we get going, I do want to show you the new Deviser guitars. So, these are called the Barons. These are going to be really affordable. They're troublemakers that were done a little better, in my opinion, as far as the design goes. So, let's look. This is a Baron Custom. This has the Gibson scale length. Beautiful. This is an Indonesian-made guitar that has all the important stuff of the assembly done in Japan. All the fretwork's done in Japan. The nut is cut in Japan. The guitar is then set up, shipped off to you. I believe it's 110,000 yen, under $800. But that's a suggested price. Don't ever pay that. If you're looking for one of these, you'll never pay that. You get it much cheaper than that. But I thought the design was cool, especially the one in the middle. I thought the custom was cool and the one in the middle. The one in the middle takes its inspiration from the core line. It just sounds stupid saying that, but it's true. The ones that are made in Japan, in the Asuka factory, on their Ex-Robatos and their Albatrosses and their Storks, they have a jazz line. And this is their version of that. So really cool. Spruce top on a thin line, troublemaker style instrument. Is a little bit less flashy. I bet you that is going to be light as hell and a very resonant instrument. I just thought it was cool that they did the Gibson scale length. And yeah, just in general, I've always loved that style of instrument. I love that design. I love Telecasters, but the Troublemaker and the Cabronita have been two of my favorites. Purely aesthetically speaking. The Cabronitas, I can't do guitars with no tone knob. We reached our impasse here. But yeah, which one didn't I click on? Yeah, it's a flame maple. We'll look at that real quick. It's a beaut. And 305R is a 12-inch radius. All right. That way, if somebody clicked the title and wanted to see that, now I can say that I didn't let you down. Because sometimes I don't always get to everything that I plan on. All right. We'll finish up with the chat, and then we'll get going here. They are cool. I never buy Japanese guitars through Reverb. Never. Always directly from Japan. Not from Deviser themselves, but directly from Japan. I agree. Those things are sweet, man. If it put on a bit of weight. Yeah. Bit of weight and let itself go. You let itself go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I can say that because I know Deb's in here and Margie's probably popped in at some point too. I'm going to get out of here. I have an hour. I have no idea what I'm going to play. I know what guitar I'm going to play and what amp I'm going to use, but as far as what I'm going to play, no idea. But I got to film something and work through it. Thank you all. If by some terrible event nothing gets posted tomorrow, so the new will get posted on Saturday, I do promise at least that much. Hope you have a great weekend. And next week, busy week, NAMM week. NAMM week. And I turned 40. Goodbye.